This week, we are joined by Johnny Shallop. Welcome, Johnny.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. Before we get into questions, I'd like to tell our audience how I know you and why I invited you on our podcast. Johnny happens to be a friend of my brother and works as a loan officer. Even though I had heard of him, I had never met him until I needed a bank loan for the condo that I now live in. When I met Johnny, he was very gracious. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that there was a sense of care. And I felt like him and his team wanted to help me. And that's when I realized that he works very hard, but he also has a great heart when it comes to servicing people and creating a good experience. I invited him because I think that he's an incredible leader. So, Johnny, tell us a little bit about yourself related to what you do professionally, but also something personally that someone may not know about you.
Well, I'm a branch manager, loan officer. I've been doing this for 15 plus years now. I used to work in a liquor store not too long ago and see these kids come in and, with their cars. And even though I'm not a car person, I'm very curious. I'm a people person. So I would ask a lot of questions, and over 6 months, I was recruited to become a telemarketer for selling mortgages. And I didn't know what mortgages were because I'm not from the country. I immigrated from West Africa, and we don't have mortgages in West Africa, at least when I was there, when I traveled here. So I started as a telemarketer for a small company in Rancho Cucamonga. Once I started getting my feet wet in telemarketing, I quickly realized I was good at the phone at just convincing people of liking me more than anything, because I had no idea what I was saying on the phone in the beginning. So that's how it started.
And then you proceeded to get a license.
Well, funny because back in the day before 2008, the crash, there was no NMLS back then. So you just trained to become the best salesperson you can. And I didn't even consider myself as a salesperson. I just went with a mission that I am going to prove to myself that I can do whatever these guys are doing. That's how I started. I didn't really take it seriously. I just knew I didn't want to be behind a counter selling liquors, cigarettes and all that stuff. I saw how people can get addicted, and I didn't like that feeling of seeing that. So I needed to change and move to something else that I thought was better. Well, now it's better, but back then it wasn't. I struggled for 6 months. I didn't make a penny. And I was on the phone calling and calling and calling. And I struck my first deal. That was the biggest deal in the company for telemarketers. And I was able to go ahead and close that and make my first check.
Wow. And how did that feel?
I took a picture and I sent it back to my mom. I'm like, don't worry, I'm okay. I'm not coming back. I got you guys from now on. It
Oh
was a
my God.
$1,000 check. And my broker took 15,000 at the time, which was pretty fine with me. If you don't know what you know now, like what I know now, it's different because I didn't think that was a lot back then for someone to take that from me. But again, they trained me, they put me to work, and I really liked how the management was. They really cared about making sure that you succeeded. And obviously the team leader got rewarded, and I was totally fine with that. And till this day, I think that's how I run the show here.
What was it that made you say, you know what? I closed the sale. I can do these loans. I can not only do these loans, but
It,
I can help people.
it's very easy to have a big head if you're not down to earth in this business. It can make things a little bit numb for you. Spending, you have to be very wise. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing. It was exciting. Everyone was making money. I was making money. But there wasn't any plan whatsoever how to move forward with all this money that you're making. So the best plan was to take it and go and have fun at a restaurant or go to Vegas. I felt like I lived in Vegas 2 days out of the week, back then. So 22 comes, I get my first kid on the way, and that's when things start coming to life. But my first deal was probably the trigger that caused this whole, I'm going to make sure I do really well in this business. Again, that's what you plan for yourself. But I have major ADHD. I'm constantly an idea machine. I find it very hard to focus on just one thing. And I do love opportunities. But I can tell you, starting in this business is either you're going to make it or you're not, because it's a lifestyle. It's definitely, it's a lifestyle working for yourself and making a commission and not depending on who is going to make that payment for you, the next check that comes. And if you don't produce, you don't make money. That's a very scary life to have. Till this day, I'm thinking 3 months ahead. Like right now, where I sit, as I sit today, my team and I are thinking about production. So it's a mental game. You're constantly fighting yourself, waking up from bed, pulling yourself out. So I'm just going to stop there right now so you can go ahead and ask me the second question. I love to hear myself talk. That's what my fiance says.
Well, make sure you share the episode with your fiance so
Yes.
she can listen to you. But I want to circle back to something you said, that initially you didn't have a plan. The reason I bring this up is because sometimes our path is not a straight line. One of the things that has come up when I interview people is many people have told me, Cindy, I had no idea that this is where I was going to be. And I've had some people say, I knew this is where I was going to be. But I do think it's important for people to remember that life isn't always a linear straight path. Sometimes you go off-roading, you take a left turn, a right turn before you get back on the main highway. I think it's important to acknowledge that. But I also do want to ask you, while you were figuring it out, while you were living the life, going to Vegas, you did say that one of the things that changed for you was when you first had children. Was there another moment or something else that contributed to you saying, you know what, I want to be doing meaning what you're doing now, in terms of helping people with their mortgages and so forth?
I love helping people as a given because I imagine myself winning the lotto. If I won the lotto, the one thing that I would be doing is walking in every street corner and just, donating as much money as I can give. That's important to me and my family. So that's kind of like all my fantasies that happens in my head sometimes. But when you are trying to figure out your life, there's always distractions that comes around and tries and tells you, this is the way, that's the way. And I had a lot of those and I had a lot of friends. My house was filled with people on a daily basis. So my first marriage encountered that issue because when you have too many people around you, you can't really focus and sit down by yourself and think and meditate and try to understand what is your next move. So I was clouded a lot of times. And when the kids start coming to the world, then now that's different. Now there's kids involved. I went out there. I tried the flipping. I was very successful. I did 28 homes in 3 years with zero money out of my pocket. I was able to partner up with very good people that were connected with my first marriage. But then something crashed. The relationship went sideways. And then, to make things short, it just stopped. So when that happened, I had about 4 homes at the time. I had to sell for the divorce and I had to go back to just doing loans. I got my license in early 20, if I'm not mistaken. I took 2 years to get my license because I didn't take myself seriously to have a license to do something. That's just the mentality of where I came from. I was very spoiled when I was little. I was spoiled all the way till I was 16, 17, and then they just dumped me in the United States. They're like, figure it out. So when I first came, it was like, felt unwanted. But then also that kind of put me in a very good place to always push myself to do things that I'm very uncomfortable with. And those are the things that make you successful, or at least break a barrier in your life that pushes you further into peace. Because if you're always scared to cross the next bridge, then you're never going to really go anywhere in life. You're just going to be comfortable and, you know, dead in my eyes. Comfortability to me is being dead, 6 feet under. Comfortability means to me that I have given up. I am okay with what I have. And to me, that's not enough. I'm always pushing my team to be better, to know that they are better. I push them to be better every day than they were yesterday. I don't push them to compare themselves to me or to the best producer in the company or to anyone else. I tell them to be better than themselves day before. That's
Mhm.
how I roll.
I like that. Not to compare yourself to anybody, but to push yourself to be better than you were the day before. And with that said, what does your team mean to you?
My team is my family. I mean, I am excited to do three things in the morning. First, because I I want to see my children in the morning. That's like very exciting thing for me to see every morning, to give them a hard time to get up to go to school. That to me is beautiful because that's how I used to feel with my dad. He used to wake me up and, I didn't like school. It's like a funny irony in a sense.
Mm.
So I still yell like how my dad yells in the morning. Get up, guys. Time to go. School is beautiful. Let's go learn some good stuff. Like I said, three things I look forward to is waking up, with my kids, going to my morning coffee with my closest friends. We've been in the business together for 20 years, and my team coming to the office and, seeing what is necessary to do for the day with the team. I have a very open environment. Everybody can say what they want to say and state their case and tell me how they feel. And there's nobody above each other, but there's respect for each other.
I like that. And for our audience members, before we hit the record button, we were having a lively conversation about how we show up as a leader, as a manager, as a coworker, as a friend. And one of the things that we talked about was finding the balance between having a kind heart, having that type of open door policy that Johnny just referenced, but also sometimes we have deadlines and we have to get the work done. And it's a delicate balance because there's days where you feel the pressure of hard deadlines. Today is not necessarily the day where we're going to have the most jokes, but then
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow will be.
My problem is I've always been friends with everyone in my office. But the good thing is you can be friends with people in your office, but there has to be a boundary of that friendship so that when you say something that you need or there's a deadline, it needs to be taken seriously and they need to get it done. So you don't have to try and figure out what to do last minute. There's people in my office that have been with me for 7, 8 years now. And I've never seen the inside of their houses, not because they haven't invited me to go to their homes and meet their family, but because we are here with each other throughout the whole day. When we go home, we're with our family. So here is where our home is when we come to work. And this is what you need to do. These are your tasks that need to get done, and they do it. That's respect. That's exactly how a home is treated. Home is treated with respect. And if you don't do your task, we're going to sit down the next day and figure out why you didn't. And if you don't do your task for the next 3 days in a row, then there is something that is bothering you that I need to know about. And I need to, because if that doesn't get resolved, then it translates to the clients. And then we cannot help a client when we're forgetting their needs by not completing them throughout the day. So it's very important to always remember that, and not everybody understands new things. You might understand, I, as the manager, might understand that I need you to be doing it this way, but they might have something that's darker in their minds that is pushing them not to, not because they don't want to, because they're not used to a certain way of receiving that information.
Mm.
So for me, I had to grow up completely and change the way I say things a lot. I am, Lebanese and I was raised in West Africa. So my thing is we yell. So, but I
Mhm.
had to sit everybody down and say, listen, if I talk to you and my voice is high, I'm not yelling. That's just my passion. That's my passion level. So you have to set the tone for how they're going to receive the information from you.
I like a couple of the things that you said, this idea of how you receive information, how you send information. Because when we communicate, there's always a sender and there's a receiver. And sometimes the sender thinks that the receiver understands, but the receiver doesn't. And sometimes the receiver thinks they understood what the sender sent,
No,
but they didn't. That's also a delicate balance. But I think that that's fundamental to being a good manager, to being a good leader is this understanding of did they receive the message? And also understanding that learning new things can be a challenge, right? We have things changing. We have AI transforming the way we do business. We have different regulations, different laws coming into place. There's always so much we are being bombarded with. But if we could just take it, even if it's just a small step at a time, if you learn one thing every day, then that becomes an aggregate where at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you've actually learned a lot. But if you all try to learn it in one day, then maybe it's not going to stick. Maybe you're not going to receive it. So there's different ways of learning. There's different ways of communicating, whatever works best for you and your organization. But what I think is helpful for anybody is awareness of how it is that we communicate. Because sometimes there are cultural differences. I interviewed my former boss a couple of episodes ago. We were talking about coming of age, and he shared about how he found himself when he went to university and how he was always interested in the why of life and so forth. And I shared with him that when I went to the university in Boston, I found myself in a way that I didn't think I would find myself. I met other people of Central American heritage like myself. I was born in the US, but my parents are from Central America. And when I was growing up in California, which is a very diverse and multicultural state, you didn't necessarily at that time see a lot of people from Central
yeah.
America. So some of the things that I thought were strange and didn't always connotate with being cultural made sense when I met other people of a similar heritage. And I said, oh, they think that same thing that I think. They do that same thing that I do. And that's when I started to become interested in people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and understanding them. And in that understanding, yes, we are different. And that's something that's to be celebrated. And sometimes there's challenges with those
Oh,
differences
yeah.
because, you have to understand them. But there's also beauty because it would be pretty darn boring if we were all the same.
Well, sales is all about spotting all of those things ahead, right? And the branch, the way we run it is a very lead oriented branch. We are online based leads mostly. And we have very few agents that we choose to work with because we want to make sure that they understand us. So, and most of the time we speak to people on the phone that are looking for a mortgage or trying to purchase a home, refinance. We don't see them face to face. So you have to listen with extremely sensitive ear and as they're talking. And the one thing that I always practice and I teach everyone that calls here is you have to completely listen. Don't try to sell anything and let catch the most amazing things you can that are dear to their hearts. Because look at our conversation here right now. You didn't ask me to spill about my past or how I grew up, but it happens because this is a safe space and I trust you. And that's why I chose to be on your podcast because I feel that you will take care very well of everything I say. And if I say something that is not correct, you're probably going to go ahead and, protect me from that. Right. And that's what it is with when you're on the phone with a client and or a prospect that wants to purchase or wants to do anything with mortgages. is that you have to pick up those important things quickly within the first 10 seconds of them saying hello and how they say the hello, how they huff and puff, how you ask them a question. That's how fast you have to be in this business. What they say, how they say it is very important. You have to be very quick. And it's the same thing with your employees. Like when you have people that work for you, you have to be very quick to understand their day because not everybody comes to work wanting to work every day. It's impossible. I, for one, don't want to come to work every day. Sometimes I come and I fiddle around. And then I go home and I'm like, this has been the worst day of my life. And then another day I'll come to work and I'll knock out all my tasks and I go home and I feel amazing. I had to learn this. My thing is, I think I didn't grow up until I was probably years old because I just didn't want to. And I felt like I cannot be too serious because that's just not me. But as time goes on, I start thinking like, okay, this annoys me a lot or that don't really care to be around that. And I just want to keep those people are right there. I want to keep these people right here. You start playing this nice game of place it wherever you want so that you have a nice channel of peace and tranquility and no stress.
I like that. I like this idea of having a channel for what's important to you. So what's important to you is a sense of tranquility, a sense of peace. So you're going to decide what your boundaries are, what is important to you, who's allowed into your life and who's not. And that's something that we need to do both personally and professionally. There was a couple of things that I also wanted to circle back to. This idea of understanding the needs of people. You said that when your coworkers or you speak to people, you're paying attention because you're trying to understand their needs. To understand people's needs, it is about listening, but it's also about having awareness, self-awareness, and awareness of the people around you. And that's what leads you to understand their needs. I think that that's an important quality of leadership and professionalism, but also something that we use in our personal lives, having that type of emotional intelligence. It goes to the heart of the matter of how we show up. And what's at the core of this podcast is being human, showing up in our humanity and leading with our humanity. In previous eras, people thought that showing up with your humanity was a sign of weakness, but it's not. We are now seeing and understanding that it's a sign of strength because when you show up with your humanity in an authentic way,
Yeah.
there's trust.
Don't take my softness for weakness.
Yeah. And it doesn't
Uh,
mean weakness. Oh, no.
I'm a crier. I love when I watch movies like anything that has to do with the son and the dad. I'm touched. It's probably from the past. I love those movies, and I don't mind showing my emotions. And if you have the time and you can make somebody's day a little bit better, why not? Just do it. It's
Yeah. Why
also
not?
just do it. It's simple. You have change in your pocket that's been there forever or in your car. You see somebody that probably needs it more than you do. Just empty the weight from your car. Just they don't even have to say anything. Just do it for the fact that you don't need it and then somebody else might, and then just dump it there. I don't understand the people that go in the streets like the YouTubers and they give money to people and they record it. I understand this is a content driven society, right? We're in such a content driven society. And I see some of them that are doing it because they actually, mean it. Big, 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 big guys do it because they mean it. But again, I don't like to give something and show it off. I like to help. It's to me, I want to do it because I want to do it. I'm not doing it because for you. I'm doing it because for me, I want to give that out of my system. That's me releasing being a human, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. What's so interesting is the first interview I had for this podcast said the exact same thing. Well, not the exact words, but said similar words that they did not agree with people who film other people when they're giving them something. He said, turn the camera off. If you're going to do it, do it because you want to, not because you want followers. It is true that, we live in this content or 10 seconds of fame type of society. But when we do charity, when we give from our hearts, the world doesn't need to know it. They can know it. But if that's the reason that you're doing it, is it really giving or is it more for to feed your ego? So, however anybody gives is a very personal thing. But I think there's power in doing it because it's coming from your soul to say, here, if somebody knows about it, great. If somebody doesn't know about it, that's equally great. But that wasn't the driver. The driver was it was in my heart. So it's very interesting when you go full circle in terms of that was a previous conversation that came up. And it's always fills my heart to see some of the synchronicities between amazing people that I know that feel similarly about certain things, even those are different people in completely different industries. So I thought that was quite beautiful.
Let me just say this to your listeners and say that Cindy, right now you're saying great things about me, but let me say Cindy is the most sweetest person. I talk to your brother a lot, and Cindy, because of you, that's why Mario is the way he is, because he's such a sweet giant.
I'm going to take it and say thank you, but I'm also going to say it's really 99% because of our mother.
Yeah. Well, I didn't finish.
Okay, pardon me.
I didn't finish. Because you cannot talk about yourself on your part because that's gonna seem not normal. But if I must give you a little bit of that, you're a very sweet, kind, patient person. I know when we were doing our transaction together, and there was not one time that you made me feel like you were frustrated, even though I felt for you frustrated. And one thing that I always never let myself do is feel the emotions on the other side because it blocks the way I have to handle the situation day to day to continue the deal for you and close the deal for you or for the clients. So I try not to get into that emotional state at all. It's a very hard thing, because I love and care for everyone, for my clients, and to make sure my office closes the deals and my staff is happy because they close a deal so that they can also feed their families. But you're one of the best, most amazing clients we've ever had. Every time we compare when we close something, it's like, well, that was just close to Cindy's deal, like just as amazing as how that person is a Cindy.
Oh,
Your name is like, we compare your name to how great a person is in the office. Like that, that
oh
is
my goodness. That was very unexpected. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's very kind and generous of of you and your office. Thank you. So I want to be mindful and respectful of your time, but I do want to ask you one or two more questions. Johnny, what has been a highlight for you in terms of the people that you work with and the work that you do?
recently I've noticed that I'm a lot more happier with the people that I have because they definitely take me in and respect what I'm trying to do, not what I have done. And the reason I say what not I have done because things were a lot easier 2, 3 years ago. And now when things are a little bit harder and more tighter in our business, that's when you know who is really here. They believe in me, I think. I think I have come to a point where I believe in me too. And in the beginning, I didn't believe so much in the ideas and the processes and the procedures that I was putting in place. Again, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't finish high school or didn't go to university. This is all because of like literally like a chat GPT collection from just looking at other people and talking to people and just kind of
Mhm.
changing my environment as I go and learning from one environment to another and applying it here. So I've done a lot of mistakes, but to your question, I think I'm very grateful that they see me and I see them and we
Mm,
see each other.
that mutual recognition.
Yes, I see their growth. They see how I've grown. And I see how I've grown and I see how they've grown. And we're like, well, if we can see each other, then we can move to the right direction together.
That I'm going to interject because that is one of the most powerful things that I think anybody has said. And I'm writing a book, which I have not publicly told anybody yet. So you made me spill my beans
All right.
around this idea of recognition and this idea of recognizing things in others, but also within ourselves. So I won't talk too much about it because the book isn't done, but it really resonated with me because I do think it's important going back to this idea of self awareness and also larger awareness of really seeing people and understanding them. But also, we need to be seen and
Yes.
we need to be understood. It cannot only be one way.
We forget, Cindy. We forget because, myself and my fiance, we're very big givers
Mhm,
and we forget a lot about us. And I had a conversation with her yesterday and she's like, I just want to be able to give my family whatever they need.
mhm,
And I said, well, sometimes you want also to be seen that you're doing that. I'll give you an example so I don't make it too confusing. I'm working on a very big project with my leads, different type of systems introduced in the company, and it's becoming a very big thing where everyone's starting to use it and is starting to be successful on it.
mhm.
And the owner of the company is a very good friend of mine. I think you've spoken to him probably. I don't know if you on the last deal we had, but
I think so, but I'm not sure.
he's a very young 5 years. I'm 5 years older than him, so he's 35, 36. And he told me, what you're doing is creating a business that the people around you will always have something to eat at the end of the day. And you're not just doing it just around you, you're doing it for them. In that process, you're going to be able to have them have a sustainable job and livelihood and grow from what you're going to teach. So you're not just doing loans, you have a pure business from a branch. And that is what's missing from these type of branches we have. When he said that, I felt see
Mhm. Yes.
it's a very quick motivation pump, adrenaline. And I felt that for the first time ever. This was like maybe 3 weeks ago. I'm having goosebumps.
That's amazing, and it wasn't about the ego, it's the appreciation that made you feel valued and appreciated, and also to say, "I'm motivated to do more," to really live up to that. When we recognize people, it's not always necessarily about saying, "Yes, hurrah, hurrah, hurrah." No, it's about really seeing somebody and valuing them from this idea of being human and not only valuing you, but appreciating you and wanting the best for you. And I think that when we do this with one another, it's a win.
Yeah. And that's why I'm very interested in the book that you're writing.
Give me a few more months. It'll be ready soon.
Make sure it's an audible,
Okay, I'll make sure it's on Audible.
audible.
I have two more questions. If people want to refinance, purchase a home, need help with their loans, how would they get in contact with you and your office?
Well, there's many ways to get in contact with us. You can Google my name, Johnny Shallop, and I'll pop up very nicely on your Google stream. You can also visit our website. It's www.ybomg.com, your best option mortgage group.com. That's the best way to get in contact with us. And we have everything on our website from refinances to purchases to investment loans. Anything that we cannot do, nobody else can.
Oh, I like that. Anything that we cannot do, nobody else can.
Because the thing is, Cindy, it's not about hopping, puffing or anything like that. We squeeze the heck out of it. And
Yeah.
we
Yes.
squeeze the heck out of the deal and make sure that there's absolutely no cracks that we've left, unattended that we cannot fill in or try to make it happen. Mortgage is not ABC because not everyone carries a perfect score and perfect bank account and perfect employment. Some employments are shaky. Some employments are weird to put around.
Mhm.
So structuring is everything in our business, and knowing what to do before you send it in is very, very key. So structure is everything. Structure of life is everything. Structuring alone is everything. We'll have a guest in our next podcast. It'll be a real estate agent too.
Nice, nice. Perfect. I like that. So it'll be a little bit of a triad from the perspective of the consumer, the agent, and the mortgage lender. I really appreciate that you were fair game for a deep and open conversation. We really got to see you and understand you as a human, as a leader. Thank you, Johnny.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on PreZenze. For more information on how you can create greater levels of impactful presence in your professional and personal life, visit www.cindyurrutia.com and follow me on social media. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Feel free to post a comment and we'll read it on the show.